Okay, let's start this. And I have you guys know Noban. Ryan is with us as well. How do we do the task reports? Okay, that's a good question. Let's explore that. Task reports. So we've learned that in Wise Option, let's talk about this task reports. It's common in Wise Option for, let me see where I go here to get started with this. Let me go to the Mary view. During breeding season, you guys are going to have your mares, and as soon as the mares get in foal, you usually have the chance to set the mare in foal in the system, and that at that moment you're going to create triggers. And through the triggers, I think that's the most popular case where the system then is going to have a bunch of future reminders for your patients, horses. Well, it turns out that the triggers, it's a good example when you have a predefined number of things to be reminded based on a target date. Like in the previous example, I was talking about the pregnancy shots. Another popular trigger out there is when you have a foal and you want to schedule the first procedures, for, let's say, deworming or plasma. So you have those reminders that are standard based on the foaling date. The pregnancy shots example would be reminders from the last breeding date, probably. But those and the triggers module, that's the confusion. I'm starting with the triggers exactly to explain the difference. It's that the triggers has a number of reminders that you want to perform on a specific date, and those future reminders have to be calculated based on a target date that should, those future events are going to be calculated from that particular target event. So this is triggers. And I'm starting with triggers because people usually try to use triggers for things that are not in that same scope. One thing that would not be applicable for triggers, for example, is Coggins exam. Coggins, it's something that you have to perform every year to certain patients, regardless, and you don't have a target date. So people sometimes try to use triggers to just throw one reminder every year, which is a doable thing, not the best thing. Another example would be for farrier. You have to, review certain horses' farriers every 6, 7, 8 weeks, depending on the place and the type of the horse. So for those routine tasks, it's where and when we are going to use the task reports. So I'm starting from the point trying to create a differentiation between triggers and task reports. In a nutshell, I would say that triggers are future reminders for specific dates calculated based on a initial target date, whereas the task reports are routine procedures, reoccurring procedures that don't need to be done necessarily on a precise date, and that you don't want to have a reminder in the system for that. As the name says itself, it's a report, task reports. So basically, Wise Option is going to cross two information, two basic records. Number one, how often a certain task should be performed. In each patient file or each horse file, since we have the last time it was performed, the program can then create a report for you with a list of those horses that are due for that particular event. In a small animals like rabies, tetanus, or different vaccinations, it's another good example for task reports. It does not have to be performed on a particular date, but you'd like to have the chance and ability to go to the program and create a task report for that matter. So here, let me see first if I have I think I do have a Coggins. This is my fake database. So first I'd like to go to the task file and take a look here. I do have Coggins. It's here in the system. So I'm going to create a task report for Coggins. I'm going to give you the title. I'm going to say this is a Coggins. And here on the frame that you read criteria, I'm going to sort of type of a query, determine the type of patients that will require that type of task or reminder. So I'm going to call here, first I'm going to start with the species because Coggins is something only for equine. Wise Option Now is a system that several clients are using for other, species, dogs, cats, cattle. So we are maintaining other options over here in the task report as well. So I would start with the species. Then I'm going to say that Coggins, in my case, not necessarily that this is the case, is going to apply only for patients 2 years or older. So you could put a date over here in your criteria, age in years, and you would put the date here that would be 2 years ago, like 2017. So you are limiting, in this case, I would say 2 years old. So age in years, 2 years old. So it has to be a horse at least 2 years old. And I'm going to stop here. Only those two is going to be my, so every single horse. Another thing that I would say is, the horse must be active because I don't care. Let me see here. Status equals. So I'm just going for my active horses, only the horses on premises. So my Coggins, I'm creating a report that is Coggins, and it's going to consider only equine that has at least 2 years old. I'm going to should say here greater than 2 years. And they must be active in the database. So this is the type of patients I'm going after. Now, on the tasks that I'm going to combine here on this side, I'm going to say that I'm going to look for Coggins. And I'm going to throw Coggins on this other side. If you have more than one type of Coggins charge, because I've seen places charging, they have a regular customer Coggins charge, Coggins for our own horses, or different labs, different prices, differentiation. You just would have to enter all the different Coggins possibilities in your tasks here on this side. So right now here, I'm pretty much done. I'm giving it a title. I'm saying what type of patients and what type of tasks. There's this particular arrow, the checkbox here on top. Consider only if done once. So that means I might find a horse that is 2 years old and active, but never had Coggins performed or entered into the database. If this checkbox is activated, then that horse is going to be ignored. But if I say, no, I want, regardless if we have an entry or not, so all the horses with or without Coggins will be considered in my report. These other options here that you see is more for seasonal. Sometimes you have certain things that apply for certain months of the year, and here is how you would narrow down. But this schedule here, it's important. Coggins is going to happen every year. So I'm saying which type of patient, how often, and the tasks that I should consider into my report. I submit this. Yeah, this age here is here and giving me a hard time. I will play with this another time. Let me remove the age factor and submit. Okay, so now I have my Coggins over here. Yearly and consider only if done once is not checked. So now I click that Coggins, and down here on the bottom, show patient list by task report. So the system is basically performing that work for me. It's grabbing all the horses that are active, checking the last time they had Coggins, and the next, and they're going to tell me the horses that need Coggins performed. So all these horses over here in my system fit to the criteria and they are on my report. So one thing that I will do is to grab this recipient mare 120, and let me do a test on this one here. I'm going to do a procedure on this recipient mare, and I'm going to say that this recipient mare actually had a Coggins exam performed. So I'm going to do a Coggins, but I'm going to put in a past. I'm going to say that we did one Coggins exam for last month on the 10th. And this is the recipient mare 120. So 910 over here, you're going to see my Coggins exam that I just made the entry. I'm going to go to my task report again, and I'm going to run the report one more time. And if it works good, the recipient mare 120 should not be in my report. And the reason she should not be in my report is because her Coggins is no longer, only September 20th next year is that she's going to be expired. Therefore, as you can see, she is no longer in my list. However, if I say, oh, guess what? I can change my date and I can put a future date. And I'm considering now 2020, and I'm going to refresh. So suppose that you have the farrier for a separate task report. You have the farrier coming Thursday next week. So you could change the date for Thursday next week, and the system would generate the report for you about all the horses that need farrier work on that particular target date. As you can see, the mare 120 is now showing my report. It shows her due date and when it was last performed. So the task report is actually a combination of patient files, task files, and procedures performed. It's going to cross those records and provide a report based on the combination of factors that you present to the program. My farrier here, let me open this one that I did earlier. It's saying species equine. I don't want to see brood mares. I don't want to see performance horses. And the owner, I don't want to see the McVell reining horses. I'm avoiding McVell. I was just pick this by chance. It happens every 6 weeks, and I'm considering, I put drug A, drug B because I didn't have farrier services here, but it's just to show you how to put multiple tasks. And in this case here, I was saying consider only if done once. And that's how you create your task reports. Another thing that you can do with the task reports, through the check boxes, you can pick more than one report. Sometimes you're doing deworm or dental work or Coggins itself and farrier. You can pick multiple reports and run them at the same time, just selecting, the check boxes and running. So the program is going to cross the information and present all the particular patients or horses that fit that criteria. Conversely, you can, in the system, do the opposite. So this one here is still beta, but has been developed recently. This is the opposite. You go to a patient file, and from the patient file, also using the information from the task reports, is going to go to that patient file and then tell you which particular task reports that patient is due for. So in the task report main option, you select the report, and the report you selected provide the list of patients in need of that particular settings or tasks. But also from the patient side, we are going to have the opposite. You go to the patient and you say, how about this patient? What does it need? And it's going to cross the information with all the existing task reports and tell you which ones that is behind with. It's good. It's also good for small animals when you have, some vaccinations to be checked. And we have a project that should be coming in the next months that's going to provide for each animal reminders so you can send to the owners blast email messages through which you kind of stay in touch and let them know about their animals and what they need. So this is how it works, the task reports in Wise Option. Hope this makes sense. More questions? I'm gonna give you guys a few minutes if you want to maybe throw your questions in the chat window or just activate your audio and participate. For now, let me, while you guys are here, let you know about the list of new features. First of all, in the next update, you guys are going to have the e-learning tutorials from the program. So you can open the e-learnings from Wise Option and watch the videos. We are also writing a manual. So you're going to have a manual for those who prefer to follow the descriptions. And I was just opening the list of new features, which is this one over here. Exactly today, we put a version out there, and we are pretty much doing some adjustments still for the Global Vet link. in the Global Vet Link is, a work in progress, but it's in the very advanced stages. And hopefully by next week, we should have some e-learnings telling you guys how to activate your accounts and how to perform some settings for the Global Vet Link. This new version also, we found a problem with the multiple data entry and we fixed the problem. So the task exceptions were not being applied as expected when you were entering procedures through the multiple data entry, but that has been fixed on version 6.5.43. And we also found a little glitch on when you're trying to edit procedures with task links that was not working as expected. So these are the new things that are coming. For those of you who didn't show up in the next webinar, a very good friend that we put out of here as well was the option for you guys to, clone settings and preferences from the program to other users. Most definitely setting up all the queries, list settings. It's the most time consuming task in the program. So whenever you have a new user in the program, we have created this feature. So you could highlight your name and then clone all your preferences to the new user. So that new user saves some time not having to go through all those changes in the process as well. We are still looking for some candidates for the QuickBooks integration. Please let us know if you are interested in working with QuickBooks, because we would love to go over the integration for QuickBooks with you. Another thing that we exploit and explored a little bit in our last webinar was about the merging patient files and customer files. So now one question was, if I have, redundancy or duplicities in the program, how can I get rid of those not useful files? So you can now use the merge process and merge it works for patient and for customers. The weight, if you put the weight right on the front, is a new feature as well, and some other fixings. So list settings, it's your good friend if you want to, keep up and know about what's coming latest in the program. I know that Rachel is here with us. Rachel, if you could please activate your mic. You were telling me through text message something about the Global Vet Link, and I'd like to learn more from you. If you could share with me some information about the problems you're having with um, linking Global Vet Link customers with Wise Option customer files.
Hey, Eduardo.
Hello.
So mostly what I was hoping to see is, if I know we kind of talked about this before you left, about the possibility of unlinking, if you had linked a customer file in Wise Option with a customer file in Global Vet Link, if there was a way to unlink that. Mostly what I was kind of hoping is, as we were talking about before, how it wanted the exact same lettering down to the character and spaces between the Global Vet Link customer and the Wise Option customer. And I know I talked to you about, there's just a few reasons why not all of our accounts can be the same in Wise Option and in Global Vet Link. And I was wondering, I guess it's two questions, if there's a way to unlink a customer file from a Global Vet Link file, and then is there a way now to link a Global Vet Link file with a Wise Option file that does not 100% match character for character?
To your first question, as far as unlinking patient, yes. This version 6.5.43 allows you to talking about patients first. So if you have a patient that is linked to Global Vet Link and you say, oh, shoot, I did it wrong. So you just click on the GVL link, and right on the next screen, I don't have a GVL account for me to use with the demo database to show you. But in the next screen on the bottom left side, you're going to find a button that says Unlink GVL. And that
Okay.
patient, when you click on that button and you go back, you close the tab, the button is going to return to the gray status, and you can start the next link again. Um, Also, talking about the Global Vet Link, I don't know if you remember, but some lab test requests were done before the integration of the webhook link. So when you go to the GVL, there is for each lab test a button that looks with very close to this button here. It's a refresh button. And every single lab test request you have pending in the patient, you can click on that button and it's going to go to the Global Vet Link, check the status, and update locally for you as well. That was
Okay.
update number 2. Update number 3, we do not have, your question number 3, we do not have yet an option to unlink a patient, customer. However, you will be able to um, have a customer linked regardless if it is a perfect match. So
Okay, so that's currently possible, is to link a customer file with a customer file in Global Vet Link that is not 100% a match.
correct. That's allowed. Now,
Okay.
what I have to go through possibly with you tomorrow morning, I believe I have a request to our developers. Once you get there in the morning, you should have the new version already there for you, 6.543. And I'd
Oh,
like you to test and give me a holler back once you get the chance to test it for us. Um,
okay.
but I have to study with you the consequences of us allowing to unlink customer links
Okay.
because
Well,
we have already patients associated with that customer. So I don't know if you break the link for an existing customer, how the behavior, we need to come up with the scenarios that would, you know, follow that action.
okay. So for the reason why I'm kind of asking mostly about that customer unlinking is because when we had first talked about this and when this was first initiated, and you were here and we were going through stuff and we started to link horse files with their GVL files and Wise option, we had to create that whole separate other customer, basically essentially a phony customer account, so that it matched the one in Global Vet Link. So
Okay.
I've got about 30 recips that are linked with this other customer file essentially.
Uh-huh.
So I need a way to be able, now that I can link a customer file with a customer file in Global Vet Link that is not 100% match. Essentially, now I can match that 4.6's ranch with the Burnett Ranches LLC file.
Yes.
Um, and so I just need a way to be able to do that for those 30 recips I've already have linked.
Okay. Okay. I think
You
if
know,
I think if you, the idea here would be for you to change the registration link for those 30 mares,
yep, yes.
unlink them, and then link them back.
So I've tried to do that, and I don't know if it's because it already has I don't know if it's already because the system is thinking that there's already a linked customer file, but when I've tried to do that, and when it does, and it pops up those lists of customers, the one customer file I'm looking for is not there.
Oh, I see. No, but what I'm saying is after you get the new version,
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay,
okay?
great.
After
Yeah.
you get the new version, then I would like you to bring those 30 mares back to the 4.6's
Okay.
range. Remember
Yes.
to first unlink the patient file in the Global Vet Link,
Yeah.
break the Global Vet
Uh-huh.
Link for that patient,
Right.
and then you link it again. In the second
Okay.
round, the customer here is going to be pointed, Probably you're going to have the customer to map, but it will not require a perfect match.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and one other kind of question I had about, as far as I was kind of going through today, trying to think of different customers I could do that weren't ours, and going through some stuff. I came across a situation that I don't know if it's just singular to what we have here, or whether it'd be worth exploring some options to try and rectify it. But I have a customer who, she's in high school. So the account with us is under her parents' name. But all of her paperwork with her horses, because her parents are very active with her, is in her name. And they're very adamant about wanting her name on the Coggins. So my Global Vet Link file has her name on it, whereas our business has her parents' name on it. And I could just see where potentially there might need a way to be able to link one Wise Option file with multiple different Global Vet Link files, whether that be because of children and parents both. That kind of makes sense.
I see. I see. I see what you're saying.
And like I said, we don't want to change the Wise Option file for her, because her, obviously her parents have the credit card and whatnot, so we need to keep her parents' name on the Wise Option file. But like I said, they were very adamant that the Coggins and everything be under her name.
One thing that as you were describing the situation, I was thinking here that maybe we should probably, because here we have the owner.
Uh-huh.
Here we have the registration paper that
Right.
goes in the certificate.
Yes.
Probably in the syndication, we should, I know that today is not possible, but possibly something that I'm opening for discussion is to have in the syndication the chance for you to put somebody else's name as 100%.
I
And,
see.
and the bill would go for that person, although the owner is this one.
Okay.
So that way, in the Global Vet Link, it's going to show the registration name for the test. This is
Uh-huh.
ruled as the owner, but the billing would go to the syndicated. The only thing that
I
I have to do over here is because today, if I open the syndication, it will not allow me to get a customer. I don't think it will allow me. Let me grab Susan, add with 100%. I think it's going to scream at me because it says, well, if it is 100, yes, like I said,
Okay.
it doesn't allow 100, but I would just have to break this constraint and allow you to put one customer as 100%, and as billing, it would, instead of billing, but this is just a thought. I don't know if that would achieve what you are presenting today.
Yeah, it definitely, I kind of mull that over, but that definitely sounds like that might kind of help that situation. And you saying that kind of makes me think of other situations again, where I've had a customer come in with a mare, and he owns the mare, but he says, but so and so is going to pay for everything you do to her in
Yeah.
the next 6.
One plan that I have for um, the leasing mares, kind of in the same situation. So now
Uh-huh.
we have tons of customers doing leasing mares, right? So this is the
Yes.
owner. So imagine that, like the syndication, if we're going to create here on the side leasing rules. And when you click on the leasing rules, a window pop up like this, and then we would create here a timeline description that would say, John is responsible for October 13 through October 23rd. Then Mike, it's responsible from October 24th through October 30th. Then Susan is responsible for October 31st through November 15th. So the
Mhm.
program knows the timeline of the procedures.
Mhm.
And when you go for the billing in the tools, when you're billing procedures in the billing module, when you click on this button here, the program would go first for the mares, the horses, with a specific leasing timeline and would break down the charges on dates, create the invoices according to that line, those timeline dates in the leasing rules. So the procedures from that first scope would go to John, the procedures on the second scope would go to Susan, and the procedures with the third scope of dates would go to Mike, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Now, on the parenthood situation, you would create a leasing that the initial date would be whatever, today's, and the end date would be, like 120, 100, and therefore, and you could put that billing to the parent, and the kid is actually the owner, and the registration person can be a third one.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
maybe not syndication, but through the leasing option that I'm going to create, I'm planning to create. I don't know if anybody would have some input or suggestions regarding this part here, but I think that's a way we could possibly um, address the need we've had for so long regarding the leasing mares. It goes a little
Yes.
bit beyond, because when you determine the range on the timeline for each one of those in the leasing history for charging procedures, we would have to create also some rules for each timeline. And I say that because I've learned that it goes a little bit more complex than that. Sometimes, the leaser is responsible for reproduction drugs, but the board and regular health care, it's still to be paid by the owner, that kind of situation. So we're going to have tons of things to talk about, but that's the initial scope I have here for the leasing mares. And I think through the leasing mares, we can also address the situation about, who's paying for the patient and who's actually the owner and who's actually in the registration papers. Good questions. Loved it. That was very interesting to discuss. Anything else? Anybody? Any questions? All right. So we're going to stop here if nobody has any other questions. And for next week, we should have the Global Vet link available to everybody to give it a shot. We're going to be open for everybody else. Rachel and I, we're going to, tweak a little bit more, but I think we are in a good shape to let everybody at least have a sip. And just keep an eye on our discussion group. We're going to put more in our YouTube channel. We're going to put the videos for you guys over there regarding the Global Vet link setup. And just let us know. I'm going to try to set up another webinar next week, same time, same hour, and I hope to see you guys next time again. Thanks for coming. Enjoy the rest of the day.